All right, I made a video about a month ago talking about how we need to push aside the law of the Old Testament, right? Because the law has become obsolete. It's very clear. So when people ask me if I'm a Christian, I kind of clarify to them. They say, yes, I'm a Christian, but I'm more of a Jesus freak. You know, I only believe in Jesus and Him crucified. And the reason I say that is because that's what Paul said. Right? If you listen to his writings and stuff, you would think that he has a bunch of new instructions on how to follow the Lord and stuff. But what he actually said is, I only preach Jesus and Him crucified. I personally believe as Christians, we should just hold on to that. But once again, I grew up in a Christian world where you have the Old Testament laws, and then you have Jesus Christ, and somehow they try to combine the two. But it's kind of like mixing water and oil. It just doesn't mix. You have to get rid of one in order to hold on to the other. And that's exactly what Jesus said. In Matthew chapter 11, verses 29 and 30. Right? This is what He said. It says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am meek and lowly in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So what He's saying is, in order to put on His yoke, if you want to have a better life, not a burdensome life, but an easy life, right, or abundance of life, then you have to put on His yoke, right? And the yoke, basically, if you know what yoke is a wooden cross piece that is fastened over the necks of animals and attached to the plow or a cart that they are to pull. That's the literal definition of it, right? It is a wooden cross piece so you could control the animals. So in a way, you could say whoever is in control of the yoke is in control of you, right? So in the Old Testament, it's the law. So the law is the master. But in the New Testament, Jesus said, "Take my yoke upon you." So Jesus is our master. But you can't have both. You got to have one or the other. We have a decision to make, which is to either follow Jesus or to follow the law. Right? And I would choose Jesus Christ. That's why I tell people that I'm a Jesus freak, right? I don't really go out and say that I'm a Christian, because I don't think most people would think of Christianity to be that, right? The law and Jesus. So it's kind of like you already have this heavy yoke upon you, around your neck, which is burdensome, right? And then you add on Jesus' yoke on top of that. Doesn't make any sense. You have to take off the old and put on the new. And this is something that we ought to be doing. And then He says, "For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So when He says my yoke is easy, it kind of makes it sound like, let's say, the Old Testament requirements of the law is very, very difficult. But what Jesus commands is very simple or easy. That's what it makes it sound like. So when you go into the commentary here, it says there are new covenant texts to be performed. New covenant that is in Jesus Christ. What happens to the old covenant? Obsolete. Please. It becomes obsolete. There are new covenant texts to be performed. So there are, I guess, new rules to follow or something like that. So what this commentary says is, there's three things you got to remember, he says. Faith and repentance in Jesus Christ. That's the first thing you got to do. And then obedience to Jesus, or obedience and maturity, is something we have to work on. And then third is to persevere, no matter how difficult it may be. But it kind of sounds like the same as the Old Testament, right? I mean, if you really think about it, what are the requirements that Jesus commands? It is believe, isn't it? But then there are other tasks like maturity, what else did He say? Obedience. You have to obey Christ, but there's no written commands, I guess you could say, that make disciples of the world. Anyway, so that's what it sounds like. So, I have mentioned many times before, I love reading the Peshitta Bible. And when I got to this particular verse, it really put a smile on my face, right? Because what he says in Peshitta in chapter 11, and I'll read it to you in verse 29 and 30. "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and meek in my heart, and you will find rest for your souls." So far, it's pretty much the same. And then verse 30 says, "For my yoke is pleasant and my burden is light." All right? For my yoke is pleasant. And that put a smile on my face, right? Because putting on the yoke of Christ is not just easy, it is pleasant. And I really like that. It's kind of like, being married to a spouse that you actually enjoy spending time with, right? It's pleasant. It's not something you have to do, even though you don't like it. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And wouldn't it be great if we're married and then we actually want to spend a lot of time with our spouse and it's pleasant to be around? And I'm sure a lot of people have that kind of relationship, and it's very, very pleasant. And you could say the burden of being married is very light compared to somebody who has to do it, right? Who has to spend time, even though it's burdensome. Can you imagine that kind of life? That'd be horrible. And I feel like in religious sense, it's the same way. There are a lot of people who are trying so hard to follow the rules and the regulations they don't particularly enjoy, right? So they become very burdensome of the responsibilities and spending time and doing things for Christ as they may think that they're doing. And it just kind of destroys their life or destroy their soul. Right? So Jesus says, no, take off the yoke and put on my yoke because my yoke is pleasant and burden is light. That's great relationship. That just kind of describes the kind of relationship that I have with Jesus Christ. And I think majority of people who want to follow Christ should have. All the people that follow Christ should have that. For his yoke is pleasant. And I hope and pray that your relationship with God is kind of like that. That as you live your life here on earth, all right, that it is a pleasant life with God and that the burden is light, right? And that you follow not the law of bondage, right, but the law of liberty. And that's exactly what Paul says in Galatians chapter 5. He says this, stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free. What a great statement, isn't it? And I really like the fact that he says stand fast, because a lot of times, we do get confused. How do you live a life, a pleasant life with God without anything written down for us to show us the way? Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. But a lot of times we believe the law is we look for something that is written to guide us in our relationship with Jesus Christ. It's kind of like saying, I need a book about my wife so I could read about her. So I will know what to do when I could just spend some time with my wife and get to know and understand her that way. So we go to something that is written down, trying to figure out how to get close to God and how to have a good relationship with God, rather than spending time with God or Jesus Christ. Right? But then a lot of times we look for the written things. We look for the law. Show me how, show me how. And a lot of times, and I've seen it happen many, many times, that there's this freedom and an abundance of joy in people's hearts when they accept Christ and then they start the relationship. But after a little while, they start studying the law of the Old Testament. They start going to the Bible and things like that. As they study the Bible, the requirements of the law bring so much burden, right? Because there are so many things they gotta let go and try to do. It is very burdensome. And that's not the way that Jesus made us to be. So he says, stand fast. Don't go back. Stand fast, therefore, in the liberty wherewith Christ has made us free from the bondage, right? Made us free. And be not entangled again with the yoke of bondage. See, that's the Old Testament stuff. That's the law. The yoke of bondage, the religious responsibilities and obedience to the law stuff. Don't be entangled again with the yoke of bondage. That's what he says, because he has made us free. So when I think about it, when Jesus said, I have come to set you free, that freedom is these requirements, right? Religious requirements that we people had to get close to God. He set us free from that. So there's no more, accusations against us because the law is dead. Right? The law is dead. We have freedom in Jesus Christ. So if you have that freedom with Christ, why would people want to go back to the yoke of bondage? I don't know. But you know what? It happens almost all the time. Almost all the time. It just boggles my mind. It really does. Well, I hope you stay with Jesus and Him crucified and not go back to the yoke of bondage. For His yoke is pleasant, right? And His burden is light. God bless you, and I'll talk to you next time.